The Chapel of St. Helena is named after the mother of the first Christian Roman Emperor, Constantine the Great. In 326 AD, Constantine sent Helena to the Holy Land to build churches on Christianity's most holy sites, beginning with this one right here. We begin our journey at the top of the stairs that lead down to this chapel, where there are 12th century crosses etched into the walls all throughout this room. This chapel is in the custody of the Armenian Apostolic Church, but they have a different name for it. They call it the Chapel of St. Gregory the Illuminator, who is the patron saint of the Armenian Church. The altar in the center of this room is dedicated to St. Helena. Now, apart from building churches, she wanted to find what is called the true cross of Jesus, and her excavators focused their attention on an ancient cistern on the south wall of this chapel, a room that is now called the Chapel of the Discovery of the Cross. As the legend goes, Helena watched her workers rummage through this cistern, and this commemorative marble bench was built on the spot where it is said that she sat while she watched this process. Then, in 1009 AD, the church was destroyed by a Muslim caliph from Egypt named Al-Hakim. In response to this attack, 40 years later, the Crusaders came to the Holy Land, and they started rebuilding this church. But before they did, they went looking for the cistern in which Helena discovered the true cross. In their search, they found an ancient excavation tunnel that led down to this room. That tunnel is now the staircase that you walk down to get here. Well, they found what they were looking for, the cistern where it is believed that Helena discovered the cross. The three paintings on the north side of this room tell you the story of St. Gregory the Illuminator. You can see him preaching to King Tiridates the Great. That was 12 years after Tiridates threw Gregory into the pit of oblivion, from which no one ever returned. While he was in this dungeon, Gregory was fed a loaf of bread every day by a Christian widow. That's over 4,000 loaves of bread. But when Tiridates became ill, he sought the help of Gregory, and St. Gregory led Tiridates to Christ. The legend goes on to say that the king was miraculously cured of his illness, which brings us to the second painting. Here you can see Tiridates being baptized in 301 AD. At this time, the king declared Armenia to be the first official Christian nation in the world, 12 years before Christianity was even legalized in the Roman Empire. Tiridates also put Gregory in charge of converting the entire country to Christianity. In the third painting, you can see King Tiridates laying the cornerstone for the first official church building in Armenia, the Echmiadzin Cathedral. That church is still with us today, and it is believed to be the oldest cathedral in the world. Tiridates worked tirelessly to evangelize his country for the next 29 years until his death. Now let's go over here. In 614 AD, Jerusalem was attacked by the Persian Empire, and a piece of the true cross that was being kept by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was stolen by the Persians. Fortunately, that piece was retrieved by the Roman Emperor Heraclius only a few years later. On its way back to Jerusalem, this relic had to go through Armenia. That's what this picture is all about. In the last painting, we see two Armenian monks, Thotik and Howell, and they received a vision that a piece of the true cross of Jesus was buried on the mountains of Varak, placed there by a nun named Haripsime 3.5 centuries earlier. That piece of the cross became a very valuable relic in the Armenian church for many years. And that prompts us to talk about the typical Armenian cross. Today, the Armenian cross is very symbolic. It is commonly shown sprouting leaves, symbolizing victory over the grave, where new life comes from this ancient instrument of death. Christianity in Armenia also flourished, with churches sprouting up everywhere. On the floor of this chapel, you can see an elaborate mosaic illustrating 9 of these ancient Armenian churches. And while this mosaic looks old, it was actually built in the 20th century. As you may know, Jesus died between 2 thieves. The builders of this chapel dedicated this altar to one of those men. From a 4th century document called the Gospel of Nicodemus, we learned that the traditional name of this thief was Dismas. And for 2,000 years, the story of Dismas has been told literally billions of times. The Gospels of Matthew and Mark tell us that even while he was hanging on the cross, this thief was hurling insults at Jesus. At the very end of his life, his heart melted, and he said to Jesus, "Remember me when you go to your Father." And Jesus said to him, "I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise." What does it mean that a common thief, one who insulted Jesus, could acquire eternal life just minutes before his death and secure a place beside Christ in heaven? Jesus answered that question about 1 week earlier when a man came to him and said, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus told him, "Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Do this and you will live." After insulting Jesus, in his last moments on earth, while he was being tortured to death, that is exactly what this dying man did to acquire that one thing that every person wants: